Writing meeting minutes is crucial to be able to keep track of your work. It's a great way to remember what's being said in the meetings and what future actions you have ahead of you. Maybe you've just been assigned to write meeting notes on your next big steering group presentation or project group meeting, or maybe you just want to be better at writing meeting minutes in general. Well, for both of these cases, this is the video for you. I'm also including some meeting minute examples, so stick to the end of this video to make sure that you actually see those. I would say that there are basically 4 different steps that you go through when you write meeting notes, which I would say is preparing in advance for the meeting, actually writing the notes, rewriting the notes to make sure that they are readable, and then storing or sharing it or whatever you want to do with them after the meeting. So starting with preparing, you should be prepared in advance to make sure that you can write effective notes. Just a couple of minutes of preparing in advance can make you look so much more professional and make everything go so much smoother. So I would say that the first step is just to write the agenda. Most good and professional meetings have an agenda, and you should probably do the meeting based on that agenda. So you can put it in the meeting notes in advance so that you know the structure for the whole meeting. The next step I would say is to prepare some kind of template or do some kind of preparation for how the meeting notes should look. And I'm gonna switch to my computer in order to show you what my more formal meeting notes would look like. Okay, so here you have my more formal meeting minute examples. A lot of companies have their own meeting minute templates, so check if your company has one, because then it's probably best that you use that one. But if you don't have one, this example is really simple and easy to create. So as you can see, I have meeting minutes in OneNote, which I think is really good. The first thing you should do is to have a title for the meeting minute. This date is really good to use in OneNote, because then you can just change the date there and the time, and then you have the date and time ready available. You should have both a title and a date. Then you should also have a list of participants if it's a more formal meeting. If you want to, you can do a list just as I have, so you can check the people. You can do it simply by just having this list and go to the discuss with person checkbox. It's really good to have the agenda written out. If there has been an agenda sent out to the meeting in advance, you can just add that there. And then it's really simple to see all the points that were discussed during the meeting while just skimming over the notes. If there's been a PowerPoint presentation to the meeting, I usually like to add a link to it so that it's simple to find it and goes quickly. Then, of course, you should write out any decisions that were made during the meeting and any notes regarding that decision. If there's something that needs explaining, add that into the decision notes so that you know the rationale behind why the decision was made. And of course, any actions that needs to be done after the meeting, anything that is in regards to what's going to be done in the project, simple things like John Doe is going to send Jane Doe the template for how to do the work. All those small tasks, add them into the actions. Write which person is responsible to complete the action and what the deadline is. While you're writing the notes, I would say just use this notes field where you have the headline. I usually do the headlines as the agenda items. That way it's just simpler to follow along. And then after the meeting, it's really good to write some kind of summary about what was said. Just highlight the most important things that were discussed during the meeting. So jumping into how to write more casual meeting notes, I usually just do it like this. I also write the title of the meeting and then of course the date and the time, and then I have this simple system. I use the built-in functions of OneNote basically to see what actions need to be taken, any decisions made, and any questions for me to look up. And the way that I do it is that I just have the notes. I usually divide it up based on the agenda items as usual, because it's just the simplest way to do it, guys. It's so simple. And then I just write any text, and then as soon as someone comes with an action, I just click Ctrl+1 because that's the shortcut for the to-do, And then I'll just write that John needs the presentation to me. And then some kind of goal date. There you go. Not any more difficult than that. Okay, so the actual writing. I would say that writing digitally is so much better than writing in an analog way, because you probably write the meeting in order to be able to share them or store them or something like that. And that is so much easier to do if the meeting notes are digital. In some cases, there's probably better to write on paper, like if you were going to an interview or something, or holding an interview, it might not be so nice to throw up a computer in the face of the other person, but still, I would say we're so used to using our computers, so it's so much better to just take the notes digitally from the beginning. It also saves you a lot of time when rewriting them. When you're actually writing the notes, there are a few things that I believe that you should focus on when writing. And those are, first of all, any facts that come up in the meeting, like the project will be delayed by 2 weeks, or that the client has contacted one of the people in the meeting asking for a status update. Those types of things, facts or things that have happened, those are really good to write down. Then any problems that you're facing, because it's really important to lift those and share them so that everyone is aware of them and can help everyone else to solve them. One of the most important things to write down are the decisions that are made in the meeting, especially if the meeting is based on some kind of decision forum, like a steering group or some kind of leadership meeting. If you're a project manager, you know that the decisions are basically the most important thing, and having them written down is also really important so that you can share that this is what we agreed on. Because people forget so easily why you took that decision and that the decision actually was made. So yeah. You should also focus on writing down any actions or next steps that you're planning on taking, any actions that come up during the meeting, that the person should send a document, or that person Y is responsible of contacting the client again. All of those things should be written down with a clear deadline in order to make sure that they do them. And then also any questions and answers, because if one person is asking a question, then probably a lot of other people are wondering the same thing. So capturing the question and capturing the answer to that question is also really good to have in the meeting notes. When you're writing the notes in the meeting, you should try to capture as much as you need in order to rewrite the notes and for them to be understandable, but not include all the stuff in between. And this is really hard if you're just starting out, but it gets easier with experience. And if you make sure to focus on those 5 things that I just said, facts, problems, decisions, actions, and questions and answers, the meeting notes will be much more summarized and comprehensive at the same time. The rewriting step is really important, but I think a lot of people skip this, especially if the meeting notes are only for yourself. But the thing here is that when you're writing notes in the meeting, you will be writing quickly, and you might writing spelling errors, and you might write something that is based on how people talk and not how you would write in text, and that's a big difference. At least for me, my sentences are not complete sentences when I've just written the meeting notes. I really need to rewrite them in order for anyone else to understand them. So you need to read through your meeting notes, clarify anything that is unclear, spell check everything. You should always rewrite the meeting notes as soon as you possibly can after the meeting, because then you have everything fresh in your head and it makes it so much easier to remember what people actually meant with what they said. Also, try to summarize everything as good as you can, because no one is going to read long meeting minutes. They're probably just going to read the basic facts and the summary and some specific things if they're actually looking for something. Also, if someone is going back looking through old meeting notes, they want to be able to skim through it as quickly as possible, and they don't want to skim through heaps of text. So try to make it as short and concise as you possibly can. And then, just like you saw in the template, be very, very clear about the decisions that were made and why they were made, and also any next actions, who are responsible for them, and what deadline do they have. make that super clear so no one can misinterpret that. When you've rewritten the notes, then it's time to share and store them. So you can do this in a couple of different ways. I would say if it's a casual meeting, I would probably just lift out the decisions and the actions and maybe a few information points and just stick them in an email and email the people that were at the meeting, and then they get the notes in an email format. If it's a bit more formal, you probably want to have those meeting notes collected somewhere, like in a Teams site or a SharePoint site, so that everyone can read them when they need to have that information. Also, when you store the meeting notes, I would say to try to keep it in a format that is easily searchable. So that is not Word. If you have your meeting notes in a separate document, it will be really hard to search for the content that is in that document. So I usually prefer to write my meeting notes in OneNote because it's easily searchable. Everyone can access the OneNote and add it into their own OneNote. And there's also OneNote available on Teams as a separate page. I hope you learned some new tips and tricks for how to write meeting notes and found the meeting note examples interesting. If you're interested in more work-related tips, make sure to subscribe to my channel and watch this video next. Have an awesome week, and I'll see you in my next video.